Total Access with Scott Hansen. I'm Lindsay Rhodes.
Yeah, two Super Bowl winning quarterbacks trying to keep their seasons alive in the Pacific Northwest. Both the Packers and the Seahawks only have 4 wins coming into this Thursday night matchup in Week 11. Both have lost 2 of their last 3. The Packers have not won a road.
His instincts are extraordinary, and he uses those, and they show up in so many different ways. His ability to move in and around the pocket and find more space and create more time is as good as you get. He's also really smart, and he's been in the system, and he can utilize so many aspects of it during the course of the game. So he's just as difficult as you can get.
The Seahawks will be trying to stop Rodgers and the Packers without one of their best defensive players. Linebacker K.J. Wright listed as doubtful on the injury report because of a knee injury. I spoke to Wright about an hour ago. He said the chances are slim. At best, he goes tomorrow. Wants to get that knee right, Scott. Make sure he's ready for the stretch run.
Yeah, that would be big. They have lost 2 in a row, has Seattle. The Seahawks have never lost 3 in a row with Russell Wilson as their quarterback. Thanks, Tom.
Willie McGinnis, James Jones, I don't know about you, but I find this game to be fascinating. We've got two quarterback-centric offenses that are both coming off games in which the ground game was also pretty good. Can we count on that again tomorrow, though, for the Packers?
Your offense a trick offense? That's okay. I'll take the trick offense. That's as long as we score points and get some yards. But listen, I know these 2 quarterbacks are special, but listen. You have to run the ball if you're the Packers. Aaron Jones, give him a heavy dose. I like what Mike McCarthy did last week. No running back by committee. This is our guy. We're going to give him the ball. We're going to let him tote the rock, as the running back say in Green Bay. We're going to tote this thing, and we're going to get yards. And he's making it easier on Aaron. And if we could do that, you keep other offenses off the field, because they're going to have to stop Seattle's run as well. But a heavy dose of Aaron Jones is going to make it easier for Aaron Rodgers in the play-action pass. I think this is going to be a good fit.
Are you convinced that McCarthy is as convinced as you are that Aaron Jones getting the ball that often is the answer?
Me knowing Coach Mike, I don't know, because he used to come in the locker room and say, we're going to run this thing 30 times. We have 2 negative runs, and he like, 5 wide receivers were throwing. So I'm hoping he sticks with the run and understands that this is what makes your offense better, makes your quarterback better as well, takes hits off of Aaron as well. So I'm hoping he does just let him go out there and run the ball, negative runs or not.
You mentioned the Seattle run game. They've been very good, number 1 in the league in rush offense, but you never know who it's going to be from a week-to-week basis. Is it going to be Chris Carson? Is it going to be Mike Davis? Last week it was Rashad Penny. What is your expectation?
Well, a lot of that was because of injury, but they found a guy in Davis, and I think Tom hit it right on the head when he said that they've rediscovered themselves. Since Russell Wilson has been a Seattle Seahawk, when they've rushed the ball 150 yards or more, they've been in the playoff. They've been a playoff team. So they want to find that balance with the run, the play action, and then them throwing the ball down the field. When he's about 48% passing with about 25 to 27 attempts, that's the magic. That's what they do really well. And that's where they've had most of their production offensively. He rushed the ball for, 92 yards, almost 100 yards last week. So he's also incorporated in that running game. He's smart. He makes good decisions. But that opens up the big plays we've seen down the field to lock it.
You talking about Penny now?
No, I was talking about Russell.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Russell had a good
Yeah, but I could jump on Penny, too.
Yeah,
Listen, last week they had 19 rushes. Okay, Davis had 15 of them. Okay, of course they're going to spell him sometimes because they want to ground and pound. They want to wear you down. So there's opportunities for Penny to come in as well. But I'm saying when you combine Penny, Davis, Russell, all those guys that implement them in the run game, it makes for a dangerous offense.
Yeah, Carson, Seahawks, the only team in the NFL that has 3 separate rushers with 100-yard games this season.
Got to stop the run.
Interesting.
That's what we say.
Hey, guys, sometimes the grass isn't always greener. In fact, sometimes the grass is nasty and brown and ripped up from soccer and Shakira soccer and all kinds of stuff like that. The game of the week in the NFL will not be played at Azteca Stadium in Mexico. The field is too torn up. Instead, they've moved the game to Los Angeles. All sorts of moving parts to now. He's going to help us sort out this midweek scramble. Hey, Ian.
Hey, if you're wondering why, Scott, the grass cannot be fixed, they simply can't replace the sod. Clark Hunt, the Chiefs owner, actually talked to the local media after a charity event and explained it's because it's a mix of grass, real grass, and synthetic grass. They can't just replace it like they would in most situations. And so what happened here is, of course, it was a player safety issue, and the game had to move from Mexico to Los Angeles. And for the Rams, of course, they are now allowing their season ticket holders and just regular old fans, the general public, to buy tickets at this point, an opportunity that maybe some would not get. Plus, they were giving a ton of tickets away to first responders of those horrific fires in the area. So, of course, that's a nice thing. And then also for the Rams, they're basically staying in Colorado Springs where they were training now. You got players there, you got families, essentially a glorified road trip. And for the Kansas City Chiefs, it basically remains the same. Instead of heading off to Mexico, they now head out to Los Angeles. But it was interesting, guys, to hear Clark Hunt talk about the disappointment with not being able to play in Mexico. That was an opportunity, as he explained, to help grow their fan base.
Well, and as the Rams continue to practice, they're going to be watching Thursday Night Football because if the Seahawks lose tomorrow night, the Rams clinch the division with a win in that game. Amazing. Thank you, Ian.
One play at a time, urgency, do what you do. Love you, man. Let's go.
Quarterbacks in the league in passing yards in Goff and Mahomes, and one of the better defensive rosters in the league on the Rams sideline. That said, as you see here, they haven't been playing like it in the teens in a lot of categories, and they are actually lower than that in the last 3 games. Kurt Warner, they are averaging 34 points allowed since week 8. How do you see that going with Mahomes leading the charge on the other side of the ball?
Well, I mean, you look at those numbers, and as you said, the roster looks better than they've been playing. But to me, the key to slowing down the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes is you have to get pressure on him. Their offensive line has been incredible this year. But if you watched the game last week against Arizona, it was actually closer than I expected it to be. And a big part of that was the pressure that they consistently got on Patrick Mahomes throughout the game. When you give him time, he has shown he's a big-time quarterback. He can read the field, and, of course, he can make all the throws. You have to rush that. You have to force him to hold the football longer than he wants by moving in the pocket or by making bad throws. Not very many teams have been able to do that. We know the Rams have the capabilities of doing that with those guys they have up front, but they've got to do it consistently on Monday if they're going to win this football game.
Chiefs offense averaging 35 points per game for the entire season. They have been so good. Another interesting quarterback matchup in the NFC North. We've got the Vikings, we've got the Bears, you've got Cousins, you've got Trubisky. This feels like a pretty big game for both quarterbacks, does it not?
Oh, I think this is a huge game, Lindsay, and exactly where both these teams wanted to be this year, but exactly why they went out and got the quarterbacks that they did. I mean, Minnesota went out and got Kirk Cousins to win the division. Here's a matchup with the Bears to take the lead in the division and to get to a Super Bowl and compete for a championship. And the same with Chicago. Remember, they traded up to get Mitch Trubisky, and this is exactly why. He's playing by far his best football of his career. They're putting up a bunch of points, and they brought him in and Matt Nagy in to win these kind of games against teams like Minnesota and that defense that they have assembled. So I think there's a lot riding on this game, not only for both teams, but for both quarterbacks as well.
Trubisky coming off a massive performance in Week 10. We will see if it's enough to put him in your top 5 of the week. That is still to come.
Yeah, Lindsay, that performance by Trubisky earned him some honors this week. He was named NFC Offensive Player of the Week. But the young QB says he knows replicating that performance won't be easy. The Vikings defense has averaged 2 takeaways a game since Week 5.
Definitely going to challenge us. We know we're going against a great defense this week. Nothing comes easy against these guys, so we got to be on top of our A game as far as execution and just trying to keep them off balance. We want to dictate the tempo of the game and pick up everything they're throwing at us. We know they got a great pass rush and they're solid in all areas. It really just comes down to execution and having a great game plan this week and believing it and going out there and executing it. There's going to be a lot of adjustments on the fly. They're probably going to show up and bring some new looks, and we just try to study as much as we can, and we just got to get ready for a great challenge.
And for more on this one, here's Stacey Dales in Minnesota.
Two powerhouse defenses, Vikings, Bears, getting set for a showdown on Sunday night in a battle for first in the NFC North. Of course, all the buzz continues to surround Khalil Mack, his 7 sacks at the forefront of Chicago's top 5 unit. But the guy at the forefront of Minnesota's top 5 unit, that would be Danielle Hunter, now in year 4. And he continues to fly under the radar despite his 11.5 sacks. I asked his head coach, Mike Zimmer, what makes him special.
Well, he's a great athlete, number one. Great length and size and strength. And, he's a guy that doesn't think he's a superstar. He thinks he's one of the guys. He just tries to get better every single day. Now he's playing a lot more free.
While Coach Zim said that the humble Hunter has really come along in his development over the past year, Khalil Mack, he's a household name. Zimmer noting on Mack that he has added swagger to a defense that already had swagger, but most important, a physicality and an aggressive nature that he said has probably added to all of the other guys.
Chargers also have a divisional game this weekend. Look who they had at practice today. It's been a while, but that is Joey Bosa, folks. Back on the practice field today for the first time since week 1. He's been out with a foot injury. Limited today, though Anthony Lynn says he could play some snaps this weekend if everything goes well. Also on the practice field today, James Conner in Pittsburgh. The Steelers running back a full participant today after suffering a concussion last Thursday night. So a good sign there that he will be available on Sunday against the Jaguars. And good thing, because the next leading rusher on the team is Ben Roethlisberger. Le'Veon Bell no longer an option, and the Steelers aren't wasting any time moving on his teammates, removing the name tag from his locker today and dividing up the stuff that was in it.
The thing about it is he's not here. He's not going to be here, so we don't talk about it. I texted him yesterday before the deadline, asking him, texting him, telling him hope he was going to show up. And if he decided not to, I wish him nothing but the best. He was a great teammate, a great football player. To each their own on what they want to walk away from.
Ben, not only the money, could you see yourself ever missing a year of football in your prime?
That'd be tough. Especially part of the great thing about this sport is his band of brothers and his group of guys in here, and being with them. It's kind of what keeps me coming back after so many years too. But like I said, to each their own. Each guy has their own motives and motivations, and I can't comment on him. I am glad that we won't talk about this anymore, though.
Did he text you back?
No.
So make that 4 incompletions for Ben Roethlisberger in Week 10. Meanwhile, in Baltimore, Joe Flacco nursing a hip injury, missed his first regular season practice since 2016 today. John Harbaugh says he doesn't need to practice in order to play on Sunday and would not say if it would be Lamar Jackson or RG3 under center if he didn't. Another big injury that could impact the Saints, offensive tackle Terron Armstead. The top-rated left tackle in the league, according to Pro Football Focus. He is out with a pectoral injury, 3 to 4 weeks, according to Ian Rappaport. Against what some call the NFL's best team, Russell last week on the road, where they have struggled this season, 0-4 in their first 4 and just 13.5 points per game. Obviously, that number went way up on Sunday, as did their yards. Zeke's yards, as you saw in the video. Also turnovers, super important in this one. That number actually down, as you see at the bottom of your screen. Why is all of this important? Because they are headed back out on the road again this week to play the Falcons in Atlanta, where Dallas hasn't won a game since 2006. That is 2 years before that guy throwing the ball joined the team. A guy who's playing really well this season, by the way, but fighting this week to get back to 500. More on that now. Here's Tiffany Blackman.
Quarterback Matt Ryan said the Falcons need to have a championship mindset regardless of what happened the week prior. And they are going to need to have that approach when they go into this game against the Cowboys this weekend. Dallas is riding some momentum after a huge win against the Eagles, but Ryan said that is not what concerns him right now.
My concern is with us playing the best that we're capable of playing. And I feel like week in and week out, that's good enough to get the job done. We have the right amount of talent. We've got good enough players, good enough scheme, all of those things that if we can control playing our best, we're capable of winning every week. We respect them coming in, though. They're playing well. They played really well last week on both sides of the ball and know that it's going to be a tough, 4-quarter challenge for us.
The Falcons could soon get back the Matt Ryan of their defense. That would be linebacker Deion Jones, who was activated from IR from a broken right foot. They are taking it day by day, and we won't see him back in the lineup until they fully feel he can be himself.
I'm surrounded by Super Bowl champions here. We've already heard from Willie on the show. Sean O'Hara joining the Total Access Posse. Hi.
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm going to be better if you can tell me something about this Falcons and Cowboys matchup. Last time we saw the Cowboys, they looked like a different bunch on offense. What's the recipe this week? Same thing?
The secret to success, I think, is three things. And I'm going to start with the 3 keys of success, all right, for the Cowboys.
The 3 food groups?
Yes, it is. I'm going to start with Zeke Elliott. High volume touches. He had 25 touches, right, for 187 scrimmage yards, 2 touchdowns. Scheme runs and find creative ways to get him the ball out of the backfield. When he touches the ball that many times, this offense has a lot of success. And then on the other side of things, we all talked about and wondered what the passing game will look like. Cooper, okay, you got to win outside. These receivers were winning outside, and they were winning the one-on-one battles. Get the ball to Cooper. Gallup stepped up. We saw the one-on-ones. What Cooper did, it opened up everything for all the other receivers. Dak was able to throw the ball downfield, 270 yards passing. And then guess what? When you get up in a football game, you turn Marinelli's defense loose. So you get the pass rush. You get these schemes and these design guys with these games and stunts up front. They get after the quarterback. They're one of the best defenses in the league at putting pressures on quarterbacks and finding ways to get turnovers.
Leighton Vander Esch is starting to play some nice football, too. The rookie, he was not the most well-received first-round draft pick in the history of the Cowboys franchise.
They appreciate him now, don't they?
They appreciate him now. You got that right. Flip it over to the Falcons here for me, Sean. Find me a difference maker for Atlanta.
Well, for Atlanta, really, it's Matt Ryan and really his 2 receivers, Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones. This is the one thing that I think is a mismatch for the Atlanta Falcons against the Cowboys. I don't think the Cowboys can cover these guys. And I think for Dallas, I think when you look at their defense and really can they not give up the big play, you look at offensively, I don't know if Dak can keep up with this. Dak still hasn't thrown a 300-yard game this season. He's only got 11 touchdowns. Matt Ryan's got 21 touchdowns. 10 of them, Scott, are 15 yards or more, so they've got that big play. I think when you look at this offense, they're one throw away from breaking the game open. And I think that Dak can put the pressure on Dak. And now all of a sudden they can't use Willie's wisdom. And if they find themselves down, they can't lean on Zeke. They're going to get away from the run game. So I look at the Falcons. They're coming off an awful loss against Cleveland, where defensively they gave up 211 yards rushing. Nick Chubb went Chumbawamba on them. And I think when you look at what they did offensively, I mean, they totally wet the bed. Matt Ryan had 2 fumbles. They on 4th and 1 down on the goal line, they didn't convert. So they basically gave the game up, and I'm sure that they're salty about it right now.
They went pass happy and didn't run the ball. I could play in the Dallas'
That's been a narrative for them for a while.
A couple of nice things for the Falcons. One, you're going to see Matt Ryan, our special guest, after Thursday Night Football. Tomorrow night right here on Total Access, Matt Ryan will join us. And the Pro Bowl linebacker, Deion Jones, who had been out since week 1, he's back with them now, so get him back in the fold. That'll make a difference. Okay, Dallas Cowboy fans. What is about to happen next here on NFL Total Access may be disturbing to some. We have put James Jones over at what we call the touch screen with the Dallas Cowboys remaining schedule.
It's bad.
He is going to predict the future live before your eyes. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey, I appreciate that, man. But listen, I'm just going to speak off of what I see, man. They played well last week. And I'm a believer in Zeke, but I'm not a believer in Dak. Right here, the Falcons in that dome with that high-powered offense for the Falcons, that's a loss. That's a loss. That's a loss.
They will not accept it.
I don't know. Then the Redskins come into town. The Redskins, I love what Alex Smith is doing, not turning the ball over. They play D. That's a loss, and it ain't working. That's a loss, and it ain't working.
You know why it's not working?
I'm just trying to tell you.
Cowboy fans are everywhere.
The touchscreen does not believe you. I get it. I like the slow-down ball with Washington Redskins and how they've been playing it. But if Dallas Cowboys offense can go out and be explosive and they get ahead, I just don't believe that offense for the Redskins can catch up.
I know Jerry Jones owns a lot of stuff around here, but dang, you going to mess my touchscreen up, Jerry? God, please, I ain't doing the Cowboys like that. But But the Saints, that's a loss. They ain't let me.
Okay, I'm keeping manual count here.
They're gonna win this one. I'm gonna say they're gonna win this one right there.
Philly.
Yeah, they're gonna win that one.
Hold on, I'm going liar, liar. Pants are on fire. There's no way they're sweeping the Eagles.
They just beat them at home.
Sweet. Andrew Luck, I love him. They're gonna lose this one, and then they're gonna finish out the last two with W's right there, and that's gonna put them. You can't see 7-9. Hey. Don't be messing with my touchscreen, Jerry. Don't do that, man. 7-9 Cowboys, they missed the playoffs.
Wow. Loss, loss, loss. Win, loss. Win, win. But those two wins you're saying will not matter there. All right. James, we appreciate
Good job,
that.
JJ. No problem.
Well, I say we appreciate that. That was your job to do.
Not JJ, not JJ.
I'm not so sure Cowboy fans appreciate that. Hey, Lindsay, you're going to join us right now with a little bit more on another matchup of two teams going in two different directions.
Yeah, it is the rivalry game that Willie McGinnis thinks is bigger than Steelers-Ravens. He said that in our meeting today. Definitely got my attention. Also a raised eyebrow or two. But then he backed his statement up with reasons, and he will share those with you after the break. East in a game below 500 with a very tough schedule the rest of the way. Philly's opponents have combined to win 64% of their games so far. That is the highest opponent win percentage left in the league. And guess who's up first for them? The 8-1 Saints. For more on that, here's Mike Garafolo.
At 4-5 after the loss to the Cowboys the other day, the defending champion Eagles are approaching must-win territory, not where you want to be when you're about to head to New Orleans to face the Saints. And that is why Eagles coach Doug Peterson met with his leadership committee of about a dozen players to talk to those veterans and make sure that he got one message across to them, and it's a big one. Don't go around here moping, feeling sorry for yourselves, because some of the younger guys, they may see that and feel like it's okay for them to act this way. And that's why Peterson believes that his team right now is in a good spot mentally.
They know that the sense of urgency in practice, you know, it's not a panic or anything other than just sense of urgency of understanding your job, doing it collectively, and making sure that they just focus on one play at a time. But I really do feel like they're in a good place, and they're positive about the future.
The Eagles know what they need to do on both sides of the ball against New Orleans. They have to start better offensively than they have this year. Only 8.9 points per game in the first half this season after 14 per game last season. And defensively, have to force more turnovers. Only 7 takeaways for the defense this year. That's tied for 28th in the league.
Another thing that would help, a big game from Nelson Aguilar, who's not fared as well this year out of the slot. Just 1 touchdown, and it wasn't from Carson Wentz. It was way back in week 2 with Nick Foles under center. What's going on here, Sean O'Hara?
Lindsay, it's just a little bit of a chemistry issue. I think the production that you talk about in the end zone, they're not getting the points, obviously, but Carson Wentz, he's still throwing the ball to Nelson Aguilar. I go back to the week 4 game against the Tennessee Titans, and it showed up in that game. He had 3 drops. Let's take a look at one of the pass plays that really jumped out. Here he is in the slot right here. All right, he's running a seam route. This is 3rd and 21, Lindsay. And this ball, you can't throw a better pass than Carson Wentz does right now. And it hits him right in the hands. Beat him up, ball. You got to catch the ball. You got one job. As a receiver, do it. Right, JJ? All right, so Carson Wentz still got faith in him. A couple weeks ago against Jacksonville in London. All right, the middle of the field is wide open. This is man coverage right here. Carson Wentz is going to throw you a touchdown. All you got to do is run the skinny post. He's not on the same page. He's running the wrong route. Carson Wentz is looking over there saying, bro, what are you doing? I'm trying to throw you a touchdown. This is not the same rhythm. It's not the same confidence that we're seeing offensively. But I do say this, Lindsay. They're playing the New Orleans Saints. The Saints have given up 8 touchdowns in the slot. That's P.J. Williams. They traded for Eli Apple with the Giants because they need help covering in the slot. This is the biggest game for the Eagles since the Super Bowl. They might just get to 500 if they can get some production out of Nelson Aguilar.
Alex takes a snap, looking, under heat, no place to go, looking end zone, fires, caught, Redskins touchdown!
Never lost track of Josh Doxson. It's big time. Watson scrambling to the left side, looking for an open man, throws back across his body, hits Jordan Thomas for another touchdown. The Wizard, Watson, does it again.
This one's a high-profile matchup on Sunday. The Texans in first place at 6-3 at the Redskins in first place at 6-3. JJ, where do you see an edge in this one?
Oh, man, I got to get an edge to the Washington Redskins, man. The Washington Redskins are playing football the right way right now. They kind of like Tim Duncan. Nothing flashy. You get them the ball, boom, 2 points off the glass.
Big
you know
fundamental.
What I mean? But they run the ball well. I know they had a couple injuries up the O-line, but you get Williams back on that O-line. Adrian Peterson's been running the ball well. Alex Smith does not turn the ball over. He sits in the pocket, deliver the ball. He does not turn the ball over. And then when you don't do that, you get after the passer. They get after the passer. Their defense is playing lights out. And last but not least, they cause turnovers. They cause turnovers. I'm going to say it again. They cause turnovers. This defense is playing well. Alex Smith does not turn it over. They run the ball. That's recipe for wins. I think they get after the Texans this week.
Washington causes turnovers. You know who doesn't turn the ball over? Houston. Houston has not had a giveaway in 3 straight weeks. Something has to give.
Ooh, that's why you play the games. I love it.
Time to shine, okay? Love you, man. Let's go. Loosen them up. Loosen them up. Loosen it up.
Ben gets the shotgun snap. He's going to run.
Ben Roethlisberger will find the open receiver, whether it's short to intermediate, right here with Vance McDonald, and it will turn into big plays.
You think they really want this one?
No, they don't want the Pittsburgh Steelers right now.
No, I'm saying the Pittsburgh Steelers. You think
absolutely.
they really want this win after what happened last
year? They got
year?
knocked out of the playoffs. They got beat and embarrassed in their own place last year. Of course they want this one bad. They want to prove a point against a team who they don't have a good relationship with.
Yeah, a good relationship or a good record against in Jacksonville, 5-7 all time.
If your fantasy team is 5,
put this list together.
I was going to say there's some great performances by the quarterbacks this week. And as you mentioned there, you wake up on a Sunday morning feeling dangerous. There's a good chance you make the list. And we'll start right there at number 5. Baker Mayfield, just the second rookie that's made the list this year. 150 quarterback rating, got a big win against Atlanta. Let's hope he can turn this into some more wins. At number 4 is a guy that we haven't talked enough about this year, in my opinion, Andrew Luck. I mean, he's got 26 touchdowns, just 5 behind Patrick Mahomes, who's tearing it up, but just playing great football. He's got an offensive line now that's protecting him, and he's making throw after throw after throw. Love that he's back. He makes this league better when he's out there playing, so he gets the number 4 spot. Number 3, a guy we talked about earlier, in Mitch Trubisky. He's starting to play some really, really good football. Threw for over 350 yards, making a lot of big plays for his team. Number 2, Drew Brees. I mean, this guy is playing unbelievable. I mean, would have to be the front runner for the MVP if Patrick Mahomes didn't have over 30 touchdown passes already. And then number 1 on my list is the guy that played last Thursday, but you throw a couple more touchdown passes than you have incompletions, there's also a pretty good chance that you're going to be number 1 on the list. Big Ben has got this team rolling. You see it right there. 22 for 25, 5 touchdowns, over 300 yards. This offense is starting to come into what we thought they would be at the beginning of the year, assuming Le'Veon Bell was there, but James Conner's playing great, but Big Ben is playing his best football of the year, and he gets the number 1 spot.
A perfect passer rating for Ben Roethlisberger. You've got 3 guys on your list who had over 150 in that category, and no one on this list had fewer than 3 touchdowns thrown. What a great week for the quarterbacks. Let's see if the fans agree with your list. This is pretty hard to argue with, but it appears that they did with one person, Marcus Mariota, coming in at number 4 on their list.
It's hard to argue with that. I mean, against the Patriots, a dominating performance. I thought he played really well, but I really like my list. Andrew Luck, 6 straight games with 3 touchdown passes or more, playing better than I think anybody expected him to play. I had to put him on the list.
And look at that. They have everybody else in the exact same spot even. So it seems like you're going to, the number of angry tweets that you're going to get this week is going to be fairly low.
Well, yeah, we'll see. I'm going to still get a few on why Tom Brady wasn't on there or Aaron Rodgers. I get those every week, but I'm glad we were pretty close.
But you got to win, so Patriots fans.
That's a big part of it. It's a big part of it.
Thank you, Kurt.
Time now for Best Choice, presented by Golden Corral. Thursday night football, and we're setting our fantasy lineups here. We bring the one and only Michael Fabiano out to do just that. Interesting matchup here where we could be seeing a lot of points. Let's break down some of the players. Russell Wilson's a must start, yes, these days? Or
He's close to a must start. He's been better. I'm projecting him for 20 fantasy points in this game. The good thing about Russell, he started to run with the ball more often. Earlier in the season, he wasn't doing that. And lately, he's been running with the football, and he's been throwing touchdown passes. So that's a good thing for your fantasy football team. He's in my top 10 quarterbacks this week.
Can't wait to hear what you say about this guy. Can Aaron Jones back up the monster fantasy performance from last week this week?
I'd love he's going for 32, but I have him at 16.
16?
I think it's a very good stat line for Aaron Jones. Finally, Mike McCarthy. You must have been watching NFL Fantasy Live because we've been talking about this kid for weeks and weeks. He's averaging over 6 yards a carry, and the Seahawks are allowing over 6 yards a carry to running backs since week 7. So Aaron Jones is a very solid start.
A guy who is a big play waiting to happen, and he can be feast or famine fantasy-wise, Tyler Lockett.
You know, we talk about Doug Baldwin, but this has been the guy here, and I'm going to give him right at his average 14 fantasy points. He's actually failed to score double-digit fantasy points once all season long, in the Packers secondary can be had.
And the guy who's, it's a revenge game, I guess you could say, Jimmy Graham against one of his former teams. How does the tight end do?
He's been a disappointment this season, but you know what? Because it's a revenge game, I'm going to give him 12 points. I say he gets into the end zone, and Graham is a tight end 1 this week.
Yesterday on Hot Take Tuesday here on NFL Total Access, Sean O'Hara said Jimmy Graham would get multiple touchdowns against his former team. We'll find out Thursday. Thanks, Fabs.
You got it.
Oh, what exactly went
on that? It is bye week in Foxborough, where Mike Giardi joins us now.
The Patriots offense is in search of an identity. Strange to think, considering they're averaging 28 points per game, 7th best in the league. But they've struggled of late, haven't really found a rhythm, and Tom Brady has been locked in on certain receivers, not necessarily spreading the ball around. There are a lot of reasons for that, but Brady says they've got to work on it going forward.
I think we're definitely, trying to find things that this is the first really chance we've had to evaluate that. And there's been a lot of moving parts this year for one reason or another, with the receivers, tight ends, running backs, a little bit with the O-line, not so much with the quarterback position. But, I think that's all part of, what we're trying to do. We got to get out there and practice together, and that transitions, if you practice well, you can gain a lot of confidence, and ultimately you go out and you play confidently because you can play aggressively knowing what the other guys are doing.
Getting Rob Gronkowski back would certainly help, and they expect to get him after the bye week. He's refocused. Some associates talk to him. Don't want him to focus on the injuries, want him to focus on looking ahead, and they say he's doing just that.
Take a look at the AFC playoff picture here. So the Chiefs tied for the best record in the NFL. Currently, the 2 seed is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Patriots and Texans lead their respective division. You know who has the second best record in the entire AFC? It's the Chargers, but because of the division, they have to sit in a wild card spot at the moment. The Bengals lead a group of 5 teams kind of stacked up in that 5-4, 4-5 range. Well, Thursday night football is an all NFC